authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us, from personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation. We are back. Okay, we are back at with Tanisha Talks Tea. So I had to go in and change some things. I went in and changed cop murderer or vigilante, a Rodney Hinton case exposed. Okay, today on Tanisha Talks Teas. So I was brought to be made aware of a black man out of Cincinnati, Ohio, named Mr. Rodney Hinton. He has been arrested in the recent days, months, weeks. I'm not going to be sure. I'm going to deep dive into the case and sip some tea with my sippers, okay? About running over a Cincinnati police officer, assuming allegedly a cop killed his son. Now, I'm going to find out, factually what all is all, but the news is saying that it could be a revenge killing of a police officer due to a police officer shooting his son just the day before. Okay, so I want to welcome all of my tea sippers to Tanisha Talks Teas. We are live on Facebook. Hey, Facebook. Twitch. Hey, Twitch. And YouTube. All right, let's get on into the story. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you sippers and sip some tea on what's gone on, okay? Thank you guys all for sipping tea with me today on the Rodney Hinton case.
Cincinnati. Court papers say the deputy was intentionally hit by a car driven by 38-year-old Rodney Hinton. He was charged with aggravated death of an Ohio sheriff's deputy being called possible revenge for a police-involved shooting in Cincinnati. Court papers say the deputy was intentionally hit by a car driven by 38-year-old Rodney Hinton. He was charged with aggravated murder. The previous day, Hinton's 18-year-old son was fatally shot by a Cincinnati officer responding to a stolen vehicle report. Body camera video shows him running away. Police say he pointed a gun at them.
Okay, one more time for the new sippers just coming into the room. We are sipping tea about a man out of Cincinnati, Ohio named Rodney Hinton, okay? Reported that he hit a deputy in Cincinnati for previously the day before killing his son, okay?
Death of an Ohio sheriff's deputy being called possible revenge for a police-involved shooting in Cincinnati. Court papers say the death.
This is the wreckage. So I'm assuming this would be Mr. Hinton's car. Would that car there be the police officer?
Deputy was intentionally hit by a car driven by 38-year-old Rodney Hinton. He was charged with.
Or did he just hit a police officer standing around?
With aggravated murder the previous day.
So this is Mr. Hinton here, orange jumpsuit, of course, surrounded by lots of officers and his lawyer. I'm assuming he's surrounded by a lot of officers because he killed a police officer.
Hinton's 18-year-old son was.
So this is his son, 18 years old.
Fatally shot by a Cincinnati officer.
So he was shot by a police officer that believed that the 18-year-old son of Mr. Hinton was in a stolen police car.
Responding to a stolen vehicle report. Body camera video shows him running away. Police say he.
So that would be his son running. Okay, police say that the son pointed a gun at him. I don't see a gun.
Pointed a gun at them.
But there is a gun.
The death of
There
an Ohio sheriff's
was a
deputy is being called possible
Okay.
revenge for a police-involved shooting in Cincinnati. Court papers say the deputy was intentionally hit by a car driven by 38-year-old Rodney Hinton. He was charged with aggravated murder. The previous day, Hinton's 18-year-old son was fatally shot by a Cincinnati officer responding to a stolen vehicle report. Body camera video shows him running away. Police say he pointed a gun at them.
Okay, let's get into the tea. Thank you all for sipping this today. It's not going to be an easy story. Most of these never are. Authorities in Ohio said a man purposely struck and killed a sheriff's deputy the day after his teen was shot fatally by police. Rodney Hinton Jr. has been charged with aggravated murder in the death of the sheriff's deputy, who was struck Friday while directing traffic near the University of Cincinnati, according to authorities. So, Cincinnati police said Hinton is the father of 18-year-old Ryan Hinton, who was shot and killed by an officer the day before. Okay, that's a picture of him surrounded by police, charged with aggravated murder in the death of a sheriff's deputy. On Sunday evening, Sheriff Charmaine McGuffey identified the deceased Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy as Larry Henderson. The deputy Henderson's early tenure as a sheriff's deputy, I recognize his talent for teaching and presentation. McGuffey said in a statement, Larry began his journey as a sheriff's office trainer early in his career. He developed an expertise and became an excellent trainer. Let's continue reading this tea. Subsequently, he trained divisions of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office that included hundreds of deputy sheriffs. His ability to relate to and touch officers' lives was extraordinary. We will continue to honor Larry's life of service. The statement continued. Henderson was with the HCSO for 33 years, police said. Deputy Henderson's badge number 129, will be retired from our agency, the sheriff's office said in a statement. So that would be Larry Henderson there. At a court appearance on Saturday, Hamilton County Sheriff's deputies packed the courtroom in support of the fallen deputy, according to ABC Cincinnati affiliate WCPO. Prosecuting attorney Ryan Nelson said that Hinton Jr.'s movements in his car on Friday were calculated and premeditated. Okay, so he's getting aggravated murder. It could be worse. I mean, he could receive first-degree murder. If it's a premeditated, calculated murder, then they usually charge you with first-degree murder, meaning that you planned it. He added, he lined up his car, deliberately accelerated his car, and then purposely caused the death of an off-duty deputy sheriff. So was he or was he not, T-Sippers, the actual deputy sheriff that shot and killed Rodney Hinton Jr.'s son? Do we or do we not know that as of yet? The attorney representing Hinton Jr. said that he faces a very serious, very terrible charge, but noted that he has no felonies in his record. I'm pretty sure he will get life in prison for killing a police officer. Most people do. If you kill a police officer, so we're going to have to continue to, sip tea on what he is ultimately convicted of. So I understand that this is an emotionally charged situation. The attorney said, mentioning the death of Hinton Jr.'s son, he added, I understand that there's a lot of sadness and a lot of anger in this room right now and in the community at large. The judge ordered Hinton Jr. held without bond in the Claremont County Jail until his next hearing on May 6th. Okay, so he's had his hearing that happened on May 6th. In a statement Saturday, attorney representing the Hinton family, said they were hired to investigate the death of Ryan Hinton, and that Rodney Hinton, along with other family members, met with the Cincinnati police on Friday to view body camera footage of his shooting death. Okay, this is a picture of the crash of the father. So the deputy was struck Friday while directing traffic near the University of Cincinnati, according to authorities. So right now it doesn't look like he is the actual police officer that shot and killed Mr. Rodney Hinton Jr.'s son. Okay. Ryan Hinton's family, including Ryan's father, was present at the meeting, and they were understandably distraught as they watched the body cam video. The statement said, after the meeting with the police department, Ryan Hinton's father left in his own vehicle, and that was the last we heard from Rodney Hinton while learning about the tragic incident involving a law enforcement officer who was working a traffic detail near the University of Cincinnati. So it's seemingly looking like Mr. Rodney Hinton Jr. left from watching the body cam video of his son being shot by a police officer, went completely dark. Ryan Hinton went completely dark, right? Got in his car and went and killed a person, a law enforcement officer that was not involved, however, just a law enforcement officer, and decided to take out his wrath on that law officer. The attorney are Michael Wright, Sean Williams, and Robert Gresham of the Cochran firm, as well as Anthony Pearson of Pearson & Pearson LLC, according to WCPO. The statement went on to say, this is an unimaginable tragedy for this community. Ryan Hinton's family is heartbroken by this tragic turn of events, and we are all devastated for the family of the officer who was killed. The deputy has not yet been publicly identified under an Ohio law that protects the privacy of victims and families. However, police said that the deputy had recently retired and was serving in a special capacity with the department. Well, we now know the name of the officer, okay? So that is the story we are exposing today on Tanisha Talks Tees. Do you guys consider Mr. Rodney Hinton a cop murderer? Or do you consider him a vigilante of sorts that just took the law into his own hands, and he's justified by doing it because he felt that the police should have given his son more understanding in the incident of them stopping him for believing that he was in a stolen car and then potentially maybe brandishing a gun on the police? How do you guys feel about that? Okay. Let me know in the chat. Please drop your T in the chat. Okay. I'm deleting my other live that I put up 2 seconds before this one, making sure that you guys can hear me. Okay, great. So we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I really want to thank everyone for being here. So let me see. Man that killed the police officer. What video exposure do we have with this case? So Rodney Hinton Jr. is 38 years old. He has been charged with aggravated murder in the deputy's death, okay? Hinton appeared in court Saturday with a wall of deputies standing at the back of the room. A prosecutor said evidence and witnesses will show that Hinton drove directly at the deputy in an attempt to kill him. A judge ordered that Hinton be held until another hearing without bond. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine said that he has been sickened by what appears to be an intentional act of violence. So this happened just hours before the crash, where he looked at his son's body camera footage of an officer shooting his teen son, Michael Wright. No. Michael Wright's the attorney. Sorry. They watched the police body camera video showing an officer shoot the teen, said Michael Wright, the attorney. So, Mr. Wright, their attorney, is saying he was distraught. He was very upset. How do you guys feel about this? I'm going to get into some thoughts and stuff that I saw on Facebook about how people feel about it, some tweets and stuff. So people that were at the body cam viewing said that Mr. Rodney Hinton could not make it through the entire video, did not say a word. Mr. Wright is not representing Hinton on the crash charges. So he was hired to look into the shooting death of his teen. Do you guys feel that Mr. Hinton jumped the gun on that and should have let law enforcement and the lawyers come to an understanding of what may potentially have happened in his case? Or do you feel like he understood that there wasn't going to be any justice because his son was allegedly in a stolen car, brandishing a gun on the police, and then shot and killed because of those actions? Let's see. So the son, Ryan Hinton, was ultimately shot twice and killed by police Thursday during a chase. The officer who fired told investigators that the suspect pointing a gun at him, said Cincinnati's police chief. Police showed photos during a news conference Friday of a semi-automatic handgun that they said he was carrying and another gun that was found in the car. Oh my. One officer could be heard in body camera video released by police saying he's got a gun, before several shots were fired as Ryan Hinton was running behind an apartment complex. So while the blurred images did not clearly show Hinton pointing a gun as he and the officer were running, Dichi said the officer told investigators that he had the firearm in front of him. It was pointed at the officer, and the officer feared for his life. So that clearly needs to be analyzed. How can you be running away from the police but pointing a gun at the police if you're running in the opposite direction of the police? There was no indication that Hinton fired at the police before he was shot. Let's see if we can find some video.
Striking a deputy with his Welcome back. An Ohio man charged with fatally striking a deputy with his car last week pleaded not guilty in court today. Rodney Hinton Jr. is accused of killing the retired sheriff's deputy just one day after Hinton's own son was shot and killed by police from a different department. We saw a dramatic scene in court today after commotion erupted in the courtroom gallery where the hearing was being held. Joining us now, NBC News correspondent Shaquille Brewster in Cincinnati. Shaq, walk us through what we heard and saw in that rowdy courtroom today.
Yes, and Clay, that commotion that you were just playing there really underscores the emotion that's being felt in this case. And that was the crux of the argument that we heard from the defense attorney really for the first time in this proceedings. The defense attorney not disputing that his client was involved in the crash that led to the death of Deputy Henderson, not disputing the idea that it was an intentional crash, but instead saying it was his emotional state that led him to act in this manner, saying that he was responding emotionally after seeing a video of his son being killed by an officer from a different department. That's something that was backed up by a family member who I spoke to after that hearing about the mental state and demeanor of the suspect, of the defendant in this case. Listen to a little bit of that conversation.
I can only imagine where you felt when you seen that video. Because when I finally seen it, and I watched that video from the beginning to the end, and watched my nephew drop the way that he dropped, it was like my soul left my body.
Robert Hinton, he pleaded not guilty in that courtroom. We can expect an updated plea to come once an indictment is officially filed.
Yeah, a lot of emotion today, Shaq. And I know also tributes are pouring in for the deputy killed last week. What more have we learned about him?
Yeah. Someone who is described as a professional who was loved by so many people. He was a 33-year veteran on the force, someone who was coming back to fill in essentially for traffic duty during a busy commencement weekend when he was struck in that accident on Friday. We were also learning more about the arrangements to celebrate his life, public visitation Thursday evening and Friday morning, and then his official funeral midday Friday that will be likely followed by a processional to honor his life and his service. Sinclair?
All right, Shaq Brewster in Cincinnati. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
So this is live inside the courtroom, guys. Live inside the courtroom. It was chaos for the bond hearing of Rodney Hinton Jr. Let's listen in. So they're seemingly behind this incident to be a somewhat of a war between the citizens of Cincinnati, Ohio, and the police right now.
I just want my brother to see me. Take a breather. I just want my brother to see me. I just want my brother to see me. I hear you. My brother.
So I'm believing from what he's screaming that Rodney Hinton Jr., this may be his brother.
guys see?
Walk with me.
They did this shit before. They did this shit before.
That's the way to do it.
They did it before. I got a video of them messing with my brother and me before. I ain't do nothing. I just wanted my brother to see me. I ain't do nothing to him. He got my, that's my family. That's my family right there.
Come on.
Ray, please. Ray, please.
Doing all that. Man, see me one-on-one, man. Y'all got 40 motherfuckers here on my brother, man.
Welcome back. An Ohio man charged with...
Okay, we just watched that one. All right, y'all. So it is getting very, very crazy in the streets of Cincinnati, Ohio, behind the shooting death of the son of Rodney Hinton. Okay. Let's continue to look at the video footage. So they have Mr. Rodney, very much so in a very, state of complete shackles from head to toe. Okay. Several police are going to be, surrounding him at all times. If you guys don't know, when a police officer is killed in any manner, whether he is an on-duty, off-duty, retired cop, the police really get up in arms. They are, considered to be like a family amongst cops. So, I mean, they fellowship together as brother, sister, as police officers. Okay. So they consider you killing one of their own, one of their own family members in some instances. Some people relate the police like a gang in some cities, say that that's how they orchestrate. But to keep it, on the level of complete, unbiased, the police, when you kill a police officer, this is the treatment that you're going to get. You're always going to get a lot of police officers handling with you because they don't want to, in the event, take any chances of you potentially killing another one. Okay. Now, do you see how this police officer just grabs the brother from looking through the glass? He's behind a glass, behind a door. Okay. Do you guys see how he grabbed him? He didn't stop to ask him, sir, would you mind stepping away from the glass? Okay. Anything like that. He just walked up and grabbed Mr. Rodney Hinton Jr.'s brother. Look. And now he's talking to him like, he's a boy, a small child. You see what I'm saying? Look at this, y'all. Look, he grabs his brother. This is a grown ass person standing here. This is not a child that you pull back from the lion cage at the zoo. This is a grown ass man. What would have been so hard about this deputy telling this grown ass man that's standing behind a glass, behind a door that clearly says do not enter, to simply sit down if that's what he wanted him to do? Why do you got to grab this man and cause more tension in the Hinton Jr. court appearance? And if you can read lips, I think I can. Mr. Rodney Hinton Jr.'s brother says, get your fucking hands off of me. Okay, I think that's what I read those lips saying. What about y'all, tea sippers? Sorry for the volume. It's at 100%. It's just low. I want to hear. Let me see if I need to turn up my computer, y'all. 1 second. No, it's just low. So we're dealing with low audio, y'all. Please listen closely, okay? I think Mr. Hinton is pleading not guilty, y'all. Did y'all hear not guilty? Okay. It sounds like he entered a plea of not guilty. Yes. So he entered a plea of not guilty. And the man standing here next to him, I don't know if that's the attorney. I'm assuming so. Okay. He said yes. So Mr. Rodney Hinton, he's taking all his chances here with this case. Please, please, please listen closely. I don't know if y'all can see it, but I can see the stress in Mr. Rodney Hinton's face. He has the dark circles, which ultimately show signs of stress. So currently he's being held with no bond. I did hear that. And the deputy, look, he wasn't even trying to give them a second to the judge to finish the last piece of his spiel. You see the deputy behind him right here. He was about to just grab him and take him right back to jail. We know he's going back to jail, sir. We understand what no bond means. Jesus, look, y'all. Now, closely watch the white deputy standing right behind him, okay? Jesus. We know no bond means straight back to jail, do not pass go, you don't collect $200, sir, okay? We know that. Golly. Can he finish his last statements in the goddamn bond hearing case? Jesus. Okay, it's gonna be hard, y'all, for Mr. Hinton's lawyer to get him off. Now, he's already got him down to aggravated murder, right? That can carry a minimum of 10. Keep in mind, he killed a police officer, okay? Let's take a listen to this.
The Criminal Act.
I'm Anjanette Levy, and this is Crime Fix. Chaos at court as a man accused of killing a sheriff's deputy a day after his son was shot by a police officer asked to be released on bail. I lay out the horrific chain of events out of Ohio and where the case could be heading.
Are you familiar with the acts of someone that is not in their right mind when they commit a criminal act?
I'm Anjanette Levy, and this is Crime Fix.
So we're going to give our thank yous to Anjanette Levy with Crime Fix. Today we're going to retrieve our tea from this source as well. Thank you guys for tuning in to Tanisha Talks Teas. It's Friday afternoon. I hope you guys are safe and well and you are loving on your loved ones. Today we have a story out of Cincinnati, Ohio that's not so loving and not so forgiving. A man named Rodney Hinton Jr.'s son was killed by police just a day before Mr. Hinton murdered a police officer or was a vigilante. Or did he just seemingly accidentally hit a cop because he could not, fixate his understanding around why his son was killed by one? Let's listen in with Law and Crime on the Ohio man murdered deputy day after police shot his son.
Before I get into this case out of Ohio, I want to talk a little bit about true crime news and Law and Crime merch. The Law and Crime Docket is your one-stop shop for trending stories, thrilling body cams, and an exclusive look at brand new shows and podcasts from the faces you love. Sign up for our Docket newsletter by scanning the QR code you see here, or click on the link in our description and pinned in the comments under this video. At the beginning of June, we'll pick 10 new Docket subscribers and we'll send a Law and Crime hat to them. Winners will be announced in the newsletter. Now to the case out of Ohio, where Larry Henderson had retired as a Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy last December. He was still working, though, occasionally for that sheriff's office in Cincinnati doing special details. Last Friday, he was doing that, directing traffic for graduation at the University of Cincinnati when police say a man named Rodney Hinton Jr. deliberately drove his vehicle into Henderson at this intersection. Deputy Henderson was rushed to the local trauma center, but there was nothing that could be done to save him. Within hours, he passed away from these devastating injuries. You're probably asking yourself, why would anybody deliberately drive a vehicle into somebody, much less a sheriff's deputy who was directing traffic at a college graduation? Well, police say Rodney Hinton Jr. did this on purpose, possibly to avenge the death of his son, Ryan Hinton. Ryan Hinton was 18 years old, and a day earlier, a Cincinnati police officer shot and killed him after encountering him and some others in a car that had been reported stolen out of Kentucky. Here's the police chief.
Officers across the country confront dangerous situations every day, sometimes more than once a day. They are often compelled to make split-second decisions to protect others and themselves when faced with immediate threats. Yesterday was one of those occurrences. Let me be very direct. We cannot allow individuals to flee from officers with a loaded firearm aimed at them. When this happens, the outcome is almost always tragic. No one wins, and everyone involved is affected.
Police Chief Teresa Thigi outlined what occurred. It's something the Cincinnati Police Department does within 24 hours of an officer-involved shooting taking place.
Where the incident occurred is at the dead end of the parking lot back here. You'll see vehicles there now. You'll see a photo. The stolen car that we're going to talk about was backed into a parking spot back there. As you can see, this is a stolen Kia. It was stolen out of northern Kentucky yesterday. You can see we have two uniformed cars there. Prior to those uniformed cars arriving, we had two undercover cars that pulled into that dead end, saw the vehicle. They backed out. They saw that there were individuals inside the vehicle, so they backed out and let the uniformed cars make the approach, which is the tactically sound decision to do. The cars are positioned the way the officers are trained. We are trained to use our vehicles as cover from any threat. That's what those officers did with the cars at that time.
Chief Thigi then played a short portion of the body camera footage.
This is body-worn camera from officer number 2. Go ahead, Bobby.
He's got a gun! He's got a gun! On your right! On your right!
This is the body camera footage from the officer who actually shot Ryan Hinton.
This is the other officer, the one who fires the shot. This is his body camera as he approaches the scene. This is the firearm that was recovered at the scene after the individual was shot. This is what he had in his hand while the officers were chasing him. It's just a photo of it here at Criminalistics. Remember I told you he fell on the concrete and the officers said that they heard the metal hit the ground? There are 3 spots on here where this gun has scratches on it. We believe those occurred when he hit the ground with the firearm. This is a second, sorry Bobby, can you go back 1 frame please? This magazine was in the firearm. That's an extended magazine, so it holds more rounds. Go ahead. This is a second magazine that was located in his sweatshirt pocket, his jacket pocket. And that is the magazine from that second magazine. This is another firearm that was located inside the stolen vehicle. This is a firearm that was also stolen out of northern Kentucky sometime yesterday, early yesterday morning. Approximately, we believe, based on timelines, this was stolen from a vehicle in northern Kentucky, and then they went on to steal the vehicle that's involved in the incident.
I want to tell you about a free app that I've tried. It's called Upside. It gives you cash back on things that you use each day, like gas, groceries, and takeout.
Bills. We're going to use this time to chime in and say thank you guys so much for tilting up those teacups and sipping the Rodney Hinton case. Although it's not a happy case, it's still a case that needs to be spilled, and we're going to sip this tea. Thank you guys so much for sipping tea with Tanisha today. Rodney Hinton, Ohio man. He hit a deputy in his car moments after he watched the body cam footage of his teen son, 18, be shot and killed by the police. That's what we're listening to. Thank you guys so much.
This information about 18-year-old Ryan Hinton was revealed in a press conference after the police chief and others met with Ryan Hinton's family, including his father, Rodney Hinton Jr.
On Friday morning, we met with the police chief of Cincinnati, and we viewed the body cam video of what happened with the police involved shooting with Ryan. We stayed at the chief's office for about an hour and a half, and what we saw was disturbing. The family was upset, as you can imagine, watching your son, watching your grandson watching your loved one getting shot and killed by the police was upsetting to this family. We left out of the police chief's office, and a few hours later, I was made aware that Rodney had an incident with a police officer that resulted in the officer's death. But again, we are here because we represent the estate and the police-involved shooting.
Rodney Hinton left the meeting with the police chief, and sometime after that is when police say he intentionally drove his vehicle into Deputy Larry Henderson. A probable cause affidavit states a Hamilton County Sheriff's Office deputy was standing on the sidewalk at the corner of the intersection outside of the lanes of travel where he was engaged in traffic control. The deputy was wearing a uniform and a fluorescent traffic vest. Based on witness statements and evidence at the scene, the defendant drove across oncoming lanes of traffic through the intersection and directly at the deputy, who was struck by the vehicle, causing injuries to the deputy. That intersection near the University of Cincinnati's campus has flowers and blue ribbons decorated in memory and in honor of Larry Henderson, a man who was simply working a detail directing traffic for the University of Cincinnati's graduation. He worked at a different agency, the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, than the police officer who shot Ryan Hinton. Larry Henderson had absolutely nothing to do with what happened to Ryan Hinton. On Monday, Ryan Hinton's family stood with their lawyers, distancing themselves from what Ryan's father is accused of doing, intentionally murdering Deputy Henderson.
We're here because we represent the estate of Ryan. We're not here to talk about the incident that occurred with the police officer. We do offer our condolences to the officer and his family, but we were hired to represent this family to investigate the police-involved shooting of their son, Ryan. This family is very upset about what occurred. We believe that this incident should be investigated. It's not as cut and dry as this officer should have just pulled out his gun and shot at Ryan. It's not that cut and dry. So that's why we're doing the records request. We're going to analyze frame by frame each one of these videos to determine why the officer made that deadly decision to shoot and kill Ryan.
Ryan Hinton's grandfather, the father of Rodney Hinton, also spoke.
I want to give a condolence out to the officers that got killed, my whole family. I'm asking for forgiveness, and I've been praying hard for the officer that killed my grandson. I've been praying hard for him and his family because I know he's hurting off this. As I seen in the video about my grandson, I seen two scared people. I seen the officer scared, and I seen my grandson scared. So it's an unfortunate incident that happened. So that's all I seen. It was like, I didn't see the police there trying to kill. No. What I seen was two persons made a mistake. My grandson made a mistake being there, and the officer, he was trying to get back to his family too. So that's what I seen. So it's not about revenge or anything. I had nothing against nobody. You know, my Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ, and I represent him. So with that said, please, everybody, just try to forgive everybody who done anything to anybody.
Rodney Hinton Jr. appeared in court over the weekend following his arrest on an aggravated murder charge. A wall of Larry Henderson's colleagues surrounded him. Hinton muttered something about being gone forever. Hinton was moved to a jail in a neighboring county. He was back in court asking for bail, and things got heated in the gallery when his brother attempted to contact him by knocking on the courtroom glass.
Have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat, sir. Sit down. Have a seat. Have a seat. That's my brother.
Rodney Hinton was rushed out of the courtroom as his brother was escorted out of the gallery. Shortly thereafter, court resumed, with Hinton's lawyer asking for bail for him and entering a not guilty plea on his behalf.
Judge, I'm going to waive probable cause as a result of being acquainted with the case. I'm waiving probable cause.
Thank you so much. And is there a plea this morning?
There's a plea of not guilty, Your Honor.
Plea of not guilty? Yes. Will you enter a plea of not guilty? And thank you. And as to bond, the state has requested a hearing on the issue of bond or bail. You may be aware of that.
I am aware of that.
Who would like to proceed?
I'm proceeding, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, a detective testified about what happened that day.
Tell me what he did after he stopped.
So based on witness statements as well as the video, the vehicle accelerated quickly, proceeded eastbound, crossed into the oncoming lanes of traffic when there was no longer traffic to obstruct his travel, crossed into the oncoming lanes of traffic, went to the left of those little stanchions that are in the middle of the roadway, into the oncoming lanes, through the intersection, directly at where Deputy Henderson was standing, and struck Deputy Henderson and the metal utility pole on the northeast corner of the intersection.
Okay. Were there any evidence of skid marks?
No, there were no indications at any point that he tried to brake, stop, or otherwise avoid Deputy Henderson.
And is that the conclusion that our accident reconstructionists have come to at this point?
At this time, yes.
Okay. And does it appear from your review of the video that he headed straight for Deputy Henderson?
Yes.
And did any of the multiple witnesses that you spoke to and the people that were in the vehicles that were surrounding him, the people that were on scene, did anyone indicate that any attempt to slow down or deviate his path straight to Deputy Henderson?
No. Everybody said that he accelerated and was traveling at a high rate of speed all the way up until the time that he struck Deputy Henderson.
Okay. And when he struck Deputy Henderson, was the deputy injured?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened after he struck Deputy Henderson?
Deputy Henderson was launched several feet through the air. He came to rest in a turn lane several feet from where the collision occurred.
Rodney Hinton's defense attorney then questioned the detective.
Judge, first of all, I would like to offer on behalf of the Hinton family and myself prayers to the Hinton family, prayers to the family of Larry Henderson, the fallen deputy, and I thank the court for having a fair assembly in the courtroom today. With that, I'd like to ask you a few questions, not a lot, okay?
Yes, sir.
You said that Mr. Hinton left the police station around 12:30. CIS.
He initially left around 10:30.
Came back and then left again.
And then returned a couple hours later, yes.
And you said that individuals that know Mr. Hinton, his family members, were saying that he appeared to be agitated, upset, and so forth, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't know the source of that that agitation or that distraughtness, do you? If you know, you might not. I don't think you do, but you have to answer the question.
The source of the agitation?
Yes.
Well, I would assume it was because of I believe it was because of the video and the reason that he was at CIS.
Do you know the mental history of Mr. Hinton?
No, I do not know detailed mental history.
Right. Do you know whether or not he's had any medically documented infirmities or conditions? Do you know that? You don't, do you? No, I do not.
After bond was denied, the sheriff gave a brief statement.
He was a 33-year career deputy for our department. He retired approximately 5 months ago, and he continued to serve under oath, and he was directing traffic that day at what would have been a very, very joyous occasion for the University of Cincinnati graduates. Unfortunately, you know what unfolded, and we have lost Larry. Larry has been a deputy who has been so extraordinary. We've retired his badge number. Badge number 129 will be retired. Larry touched so many lives in this organization because he was a trainer, because he worked in so many specialized units. And Larry was very animate about the fact that he stay on the front line. He did not wish to take exams to be promoted because Larry's service was on that front line. And I have to tell you, that is bravery extraordinaire. When deputies decide that they want to be out there facing every day to day, that's a sacrifice, and it's a sacrifice for his family, and they have made the ultimate sacrifice.
I want to bring in Ken Kober. He is the president of the Fraternal Order of Police in Cincinnati, Ohio. So, Ken, this is a shocking turn of events. We have a young man who was in an officer-involved shooting. He was killed by a Cincinnati police officer on a Thursday, and then the next day, police say that his father, and it sounds like intentionally, mows down a Hamilton County sheriff's deputy who's directing traffic at a college graduation. So it's a pretty shocking turn of events.
Yeah, it's been a terrible, terrible. Thursday was a tragedy. That an officer had to defend his own life. And then on Friday, to have a sheriff's deputy murdered simply directing traffic for a graduation is just, it's unthinkable.
I know you put out a pretty strong statement after Larry Henderson passed away from being hit by this vehicle. And you were calling for the prosecutor to pursue the death penalty in this case. So it sounds like you believe that this was no accident. You believe that this was intentional. Tell me what you know about this that leads you to believe that.
Absolutely. You know, our traffic unit and our homicide unit work together. And through the course of their investigation, they determined that this absolutely was an intentional act. And yes, I am absolutely standing with, I think, every other law enforcement officer in this county that expects the prosecutor to pursue the death penalty in this case.
The lawyer for Ryan Hinton's estate, for the son, said that the father, Rodney Hinton, had been in a meeting with Cincinnati police. And for people who maybe aren't aware of this, there's a long-standing collaborative agreement in the city of Cincinnati where, you know, there was a history many, many moons ago, years ago, of some police-involved shootings involving young African-American men. The federal government came in. There's this agreement where now Cincinnati police, within 24 hours, if there's an officer-involved shooting, they say, this is what we know. They try to be very open with the public and present what they can about the investigation. And before that happened, apparently, they were having a meeting with the family of Ryan Hinton and showing them this body camera footage of what happened. And the family of Ryan Hinton, or the lawyers for Ryan Hinton, said the father left that meeting very angry. And apparently after this meeting is when Mr. Henderson, the deputy, Larry Henderson, was run down by Rodney Hinton. So do you know anything more about what may have happened in that meeting or any of the details about that?
You know, the police department does a fantastic job being transparent and getting this information out as soon as they can when a critical incident occurs. And that also includes meeting with the family. You know, to the chief, it goes over with them, you know, if there's body camera footage of what occurred, how things occurred. And while I understand that, you know, the father was upset, that's absolutely no excuse to go and murder a police officer who had nothing to do with this, to murder anybody. Like I said, I understand emotions were running high. My understanding that there was some kind of confrontation that occurred there. I wasn't there for it. And then apparently at some point he stormed off. And then, of course, that led to just more tragic events.
What can you tell us about the investigation? What has been revealed through that traffic investigation? You said the traffic unit. What's come of that? I mean, were there some statements made by Rodney Hinton where did he say something about, I did this on purpose, or, an eye for an eye? I mean, what happened?
I'm not going to get into too much of the investigation and what they have, evidence they have, but I could tell you all the evidence pointed towards this absolutely was an intentional act. And then that was, in my opinion, only further proven when at his arraignment Saturday morning, showing absolutely zero remorse whatever for what happened.
Tell me, Ken, if you would, how much of an impact, how difficult has this been for the law enforcement community there in Cincinnati, Ohio? Having a deputy, I mean, this was a retired deputy working a traffic detail at a college graduation and he retired in December, is my understanding. So this is an off-duty detail that he's working, and he's just working the traffic, thing. And he's run down. I mean, what has this been like for the police officers there in the Cincinnati area?
Quite honestly, it's terrible. It's infuriating. It's sad. That a deputy who's there directing traffic, running a light for an occasion which should be a fantastic occasion. You got a bunch of University of Cincinnati students that are graduating. Should be a time to celebrate. Instead, it's nothing but a time of tragedy. From the first officer that responded, that had to try to administer CPR, to the deputies that all are on scene, to our traffic unit or homicide unit, everybody that's been involved with this. It's just an absolute, just seeing the evil that society has is something that has been very hard to deal with. And of course, we had the flying pig this weekend. Officers had to go right back to putting a uniform on as they're trying to process what occurred, to go in and protect the public, because that's what we're sworn to do. It's something that it's certainly going to be very, very difficult to get us through this process.
Mm-hmm. And it's my understanding, too, that Larry Henderson, I mean, this is somebody who had a wife. And I was reading last night, too, that I believe he was fostering some very young children.
Yeah, I mean, just an absolute fantastic person, had a fantastic career in the sheriff's department, and then retired and decided that still wanted to be involved. So he became a special deputy that, their primary function is to, work off-duty details where, on-duty people aren't available, just to make some extra money in retirement, to be able to take care of his family further, the kids that he has. And it's just something that is absolutely senseless that never should have happened.
Do you expect that the prosecutor, I know you can't speak for the prosecutor, but do you expect that they will? I mean, do you believe that Connie Pillich, the newly elected Hamilton County prosecutor, will seek the death penalty in this case?
Well, the statement that she's made already is that she is going to throw the full force of the law to this defendant. And under the full force of the law would mean that she's going to pursue the death penalty. She certainly hasn't made any statement saying that yet, but that is something that myself and every other police officer in this tri-state area expect that is going to happen.
Ken, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think it is important to note that through this tragedy, though, the outpouring of support from the community, as you saw, the officers working the Flying Pig, the Reds were in town this weekend, has been incredible. I know there's been a lot of keyboard warriors that have had threats towards the police and things like that on social media. But, when you see people face to face, the good people in this community, the elected leaders that have reached out to give condolences, is something that, at least there's been at least something good that has come out of this. But we fully expect that he will be prosecuted. And like I said, I will be doing everything in my power to make sure that the death penalty is pursued.
And I know that you had told me before we started that you knew Larry Henderson just a little bit. You didn't know him well, but you did know him a little bit.
Yeah, just see him in passing. I mean, it's kind of hard when you work in Cincinnati, especially when we work with the sheriff's department and somebody that was involved in as many things as he was. It's kind of hard not to cross paths with a lot of the sheriff's department. They're a fantastic group of guys. And, as I was talking to some deputies last night, that knew him very, very well, that were really good friends with him. I mean, just the stories that they're telling, it just speaks volumes of the character of him and how well loved he was and how much he's really going to be missed.
And it's just a tragedy. It's just awful. Well, Ken Kober, thank you so much. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Someone had started a GoFundMe to raise money for Rodney Hinton's defense. That GoFundMe has been taken down, and GoFundMe has actually issued an apology to the Fraternal Order of Police over that fundraiser. And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.
I'm on mute. Okay, T-Sippers, what all did we hear in that video about Rodney Hinton? Okay, we've seen a lot, right? We saw a lot. So we saw the family speak.
It was like, I didn't see the police there trying to kill. No. What I seen was two persons made a mistake. My grandson made a mistake being there, and the officer, he was trying to get back to his family too. So that's what I seen. So it's not.
Now, there is going to have to be, for the survival and the life of Rodney Hinton Jr., because as you heard, the deputy that just spoke said he is pursuing the death penalty at all costs. Okay? A lot of it's going to have to hinge on him staying alive or him actually receiving the death penalty on his son's case. Okay? Because his son ultimately was the reason why Mr. Hinton may or may not have hit an off-duty police officer, in the understanding that a police officer did shoot and kill his son. A lot of that, them not giving him the death penalty is going to hinge on that. What his state of emotion was, that's going to all have to play on the jury, because there's going to be a jury trial, being that Mr. Hinton's pleading not guilty. Okay? So, his lawyer is going to have to make Mr. Hinton look like the parent that couldn't live with the idea of the police killing his son. And in that instant of that occurring in his life, he didn't see anything other than darkness, pain, and rain. Okay? Maybe they can get this man some type of insanity plea. I don't know. I will continue to follow up. However, currently he's still in jail with no bond. He did kill a police officer, so that's more than likely the expected outcome of receiving no bond. However, while they're trying to give Mr. Hinton no understanding of why he may have really done this intentionally, okay, T-Sippers, how many people do y'all know on death row, or not death row, I'm sorry, serving life sentences for killing police officers? Not everybody is on death row for killing cops, okay? Now, that is the likely occurrence, but it doesn't happen every single time. Okay? So, let's go and take a deep dive into, are there any people that did not get the death penalty for killing a cop? Contrary to popular belief, what does it say here, T-Sippers? Contrary to popular belief, cop killers are not always sentenced to death. For example, a cop killer in Arizona was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. In some cases, jurors vote against the death penalty. So, back in December 15, 2015, Donald Trump told a room of gathered law enforcement officials that all police murders would receive the death penalty under a Trump administration that may not be legally feasible since individual states set their own sentencing laws, okay? So back in 2015, Trump did try to get the death penalty for everybody that killed a cop. However, it may have not been legally feasible because the states set their own laws. Okay. According to the FBI, an average of 64 law enforcement officers were killed each year from 1980 to 2014 in the line of duty. Recently, the killings of 5 police officers in Dallas and 3 police officers in Baton Rouge shocked the nation. The gunmen in those attacks were both killed in the scene. If the attackers had survived, though, they would have definitely received the death penalty. Okay, that's for shooting a cop. Hinton did not shoot a cop. He hit him with a car. And look at the circumstances in the nature of which he hit the police officer. He was clearly under a state of duress. Clearly under a state of duress. Okay? So, example, a cop killer in Arizona was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in Nevada. A gang member who robbed and killed a police officer in his home was sentenced to life without parole, not the death penalty. Prosecutors decided to accept the cop killer's plea deal because there were concerns a jury might not agree on a death sentence. Let's go ahead and take a look at what aggravated murder is. Okay. So, aggravated murder is a serious criminal offense that involves the intentional and premeditated killing of another person under specific circumstances. It is considered to be the most severe form of homicide and is often accompanied by aggravating factors that increase the severity of the crime. Okay. Is it worse than first-degree murder? Okay, so we're deep diving into murder versus aggravated murder. Okay. What's the difference? In the United States, murder is defined as the unlawful killing of another person with malice and forethought. Okay, that's just plain murder. Murder usually results in a harsher sentence than aggravated murder. Okay, which is a homicide that does not meet the definition of murder, but shows signs of cruelty or sadism. So they're saying that, you know, his act of murdering the officer was, the off-duty officer was cruel. So murder is the unlawful killing of a human being with the intent to kill or inflict serious bodily injury. The definition includes first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and manslaughter. Okay. Aggravated murder is higher level of murder that includes any killing that is committed in the course of another felony. So with him driving a vehicle and hitting him, maybe that would be considered the felony. such as rape, robbery, or arson. So felony murder, or excuse me, aggravated murder is higher than first-degree murder. So murder is the most serious of all homicides, right? It is classified as a first-degree felony, which means the prosecutor must prove that the defendant knowingly and maliciously killed someone with malice aforethought or with reckless indifference to the value of human life. So yes, in the Rodney Hinton case, right, they can say that, they can argue that the defendant knowingly and maliciously killed the off-duty deputy. However, that's where his defense team can come in on his behalf and say, under the duressive circumstances, I just made up a cute word. Y'all like that? Duressive. Under the, understanding of where he just came from, which was watching his son on a body cam video be killed by police, and the state of also knowing that is how his son got murdered by the hands of the police, right? They didn't injure his son. Nobody, the police were not shot at, but when the police shot his son, they shot to kill his son. Okay? Without them first having any type of a shot fired at them. They had a gun pointed at them, which I can understand if that is true, them using force to bring down a threat. But you don't have to kill someone to bring down a threat, especially if they're not even shooting at you. Okay? So, they can argue his defense under the circumstances of what he was facing and dealing with at the moment. That's what brought him to the malicious killing or malice killing of that, and maybe bring that charge down. The only thing that will keep it up there is the fact that it's a police officer. Okay? Is the fact that it's a police officer. So. Let's get into some thoughts and tweets about the case. 1 second. I'm also cracking. I love sunflower seeds. So, okay. Let me see. Let's get in a good old Facebook and see what they're talking tea on Facebook about it, okay? Thank you guys so much for joining Tanisha Talks Teas. Rodney Hinton. Okay. So Eric Davis says, don't ask us why. Look at hundreds of cases. This is why many of us support Rodney Hinton. I am Rodney Hinton. Let's see what's behind this. Nothing. Okay. Oh, that is another story that I make about the police officer that beat up the Tyree Nickel boy and killed him. Okay. And the police officers did get off on that. So let's read some comments. Okay, people are saying this is pathetic. Are they going to let me? Okay, let's see. Man, you can't say or determine how someone would react to seeing their child getting killed. It's easy to cast what ifs when it's not you. He obviously loved his son to react that way. Unfortunately, 3 families' lives are affected in the situation. The young man that was killed, the officer that shot him, and the sheriff that was killed by the father. People are already putting their thoughts on the family dynamics of the Hinton family without knowing anything. And honestly, it sounded as if the police were trying to, say it in such a mean, sadistic way. And he had a gun in the car. And that is like, okay, yeah, we shot him. He had a gun in the car. He got out the car and started running. We found the car parked over here. So we went and, yeah, he was in it. And he took off running. He had a gun on him. He pointed it at us and he threw it on the ground. And then when we shot and killed him, we went back to the car and found another gun. And that's how I heard the white woman explaining his shooting. So Rodney D. Kidd Jr. continues to go on to say, people are already putting their thoughts on the family dynamics of the Hinton family without knowing anything. Focus on what you do know, if you really care. I emphasize with all impacted, but I am not emotionally invested. Sad situation, but B. Page Nickel. People will use these moments to project how they feel about what they think is culture in certain elements of society. Very well put, Mr. Rodney. Wayne Stewart Jr. said, and you wonder why they get arrested. So, hold on. B. Page Nicole, directed to Willie Bowling, said the racist ones, the ones belittling people because they are black. Jesse Palm says, sure, it's not the mentality, it's the skin color. Carl Isaac said, I never brought race into it. You obviously are. The father is in the wrong. And so was the son. Should have never stolen the car or ran from the cops. Even if he's so caught, never pointed a pew at the cops. They are used to getting shot at, and they ain't gonna take that chance if he never stole the car and or ran from the cops. He would still be here today. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. No race mentioned. So if you want to put race on that, makes you the racist one. Okay. Going over some comments made on social media. So this appears to be,
not guilty by reason of insanity makes a lot of people angry.
Right. Why?
A cop out. It's a cop out.
It's a cop out if it isn't real.
Right. And that's the thing. Proving the fact that it's real.
Right.
It's like a court case in its own.
The doctor proves that it's real. The medical records proves that it's real. His conduct proves that it's real. And I think that's,
not guilty by reason of insanity makes a lot of people angry.
right. Why?
A cop out. It's a cop out.
It's a cop out if it isn't real.
Right. And that's the thing. Proving the fact that it's real.
Right.
It's like a court case in its own.
So how can you not say that by your child being killed under any circumstances would make you insane? Let's listen to that again.
The doctor proves that it's real. The medical records proves that it's real. His conduct proves that it's real. And I think that's,
not guilty by reason of insanity makes a lot of people angry.
right. Why?
A cop out. It's a cop out.
It's a cop out if it isn't real.
Right. And that's the thing. Proving the fact that it's real.
Right.
It's like a court case in its own.
The doctor proves that it's real. The medical records proves that it's real. His conduct proves that it's real. And I think that's,
not guilty by reason of insanity makes a lot.
I want to find this interview. Today we are exposing everything under the Rodney Hinton case. Is he a cop murderer or a vigilante out for his son, understanding the nature of what happened to his son and just wasn't standing for it? Let's see. I want to listen to this interview.
A lot of people angry.
All right, why?
Okay, let me see if I can find that. Do they only have it on Facebook? And just a little snippet. We've already heard that part. Hold on, let me see where else I could maybe find that. Thank you for tuning in to Tanisha Talks Tea this afternoon. We are deep diving and exposing the Rodney Hinton case. He ran over a deputy sheriff or a deputy, off-duty deputy. Okay. There he is with his attorney. Where is the Tracy Mack interview? Do we not have the Tracy Mack interview, guys? Damn it. Let me put it in YouTube and see if it pops up there. How are all you tea sippers doing? This is unfortunately some tea that we have to sip about a young man that lost his life from running from the police, to a father that, under the circumstances of watching the body cam footage of his son being killed by the police, moments later went out. I found it. Moments later, he went out and killed a off-duty police officer. Okay, so let's now listen to attorney for Rodney Hinton discuss his case with Trisha Mackey. Complimentaries on YouTube of Fox 9.
I often joke that I'm retired, but
paying bills. I want to take the time to thank you guys so much. We are talking all things Rodney Hinton and his case. Let's sip this tea. Here we go.
Attorney Clyde Bennett. We talked about everything from the deadly shooting of Hinton's son and his mental state at the time of the deadly crash to Bennett taking him on as a client. What was going on with him when he was behind the wheel? Is it your contention that, do you admit that he was behind the wheel? Because officers said that he was behind the wheel. There's video of him behind the wheel, and that they took him out and, in fact, triple checked to make sure that he was the one that was behind the wheel.
Based on my acquaintance with this case, it appears that he was a person that was driving a car.
Okay.
Yes.
In mental capacity, where was he?
He was out of his mind. He was not in his right mind. Let me spell that out. That means that I'm doing something, but I don't know the wrongfulness of what I'm doing because I'm out of touch with reality. That's what insanity is. You can be insane and still present like a physically normal person, and you won't know that that person is insane but for their actions and but for an evaluation of their brain. This man had a diagnosed, documented mental illness that is recognized by healthcare providers, and he was receiving medication for the mental diagnoses. That constitutes a defect at this point.
So this is going to be not guilty by reason of insanity?
Potentially, yes. That's basically from what I've seen so far, and I haven't gotten all of the evidence. Really, I haven't gotten any evidence from the government. I've got it from my investigator. But from what I've seen so far, this is what it appears to be. Yes.
Okay, I want to back up on something that you initially said. You said unjustifiably killed. His son was unjustifiably killed. People would take issue with that as well. And that is going to be something that we're going to be looking at because there is 6 seconds of very shaky video.
Right.
So what is your contention there?
When I say unjustifiably killed, I'm speaking through the lens and eyes of my client.
Okay.
So in his mind, when he sees the video and he sees his son being killed, he thinks it's unjustifiable, it's horrific, it's tragic. Do you know what it's like to see your a son or daughter being killed?
No, thank God I don't.
Your bloodline? I know you don't. I didn't mean to offend you when I said that. I have a son. If I saw my son being killed by somebody, I don't know how I would behave. And I don't have a mental history. Well, some might argue that I do, but I don't. So my point is, that type of event would trigger a normal person, let alone a person with a history of mental illness.
Can you walk me through that a little bit more? Taking into account what the family has said in your investigation as to what happened at that point. So he watched the video, he had to be driven home because he was so distraught. He was taken back to wherever that was, wherever they watched the tape.
To get his vehicle.
To get his vehicle.
Correct.
And then at that point, did he go straight over to UC?
He's going home.
He was going home.
Which would take you that route.
Okay. So he was going home, but on the way home is when he took a detour and went to UC.
No, that is not a detour.
Okay, what was it?
That's on the way home.
Okay, so he's driving on the way home past UC.
Correct.
And what happens?
There's a claim that when he was on Martin Luther King Drive, he stopped his car and he accelerated and struck a police officer, or Hamilton County Deputy Sheriff. That's the claim, and that's what the video depicts.
And tell me more about that investigation, your side and what the family says and what he says about that.
The family doesn't know what happened then because they were not with him. So, but based on the information that I have, that is a claim that is made by the government. Now, have I verified for a fact that that has actually happened? No, because I haven't seen all of the discovery. But based on what I've seen, that is the claim.
Okay.
What I do know is his state of mind, based on speaking to family members and based on speaking to him.
And you've talked to him since?
I've tried to.
Does he talk?
I can't
without giving us any information.
I would be giving you attorney-client privilege,
okay,
especially when not guilty by reason of insanity or competence is at issue for me to discuss whether or not I believe he was competent. I'm not going to get into that.
Okay. Now, let me just say, this conversation was about an hour long. And if you're sitting at home and you're thinking the question, I probably asked that one, so it's coming up, okay? Coming up at 6, he's going to arrest dozens of sheriff deputies that were in Hinton's court hearing and his client's current mental state, and also whether or not the people out in the community can swallow the pill of not guilty by reason of insanity. It's all coming up.
Why does your body hold?
And we want to find it, okay? Where's part 2?
Grand jury has indicted Rodney Hinton Jr. on 2 counts of aggravated murder, 1 count of murder, and 2 counts of felonious assault in the death of retired Sheriff Deputy Larry Henderson.
Now, ahead of the indictment, I sat down for a one-on-one interview with Hinton's defense attorney, Clyde Bennett. We talked about everything. It was like an hour-long conversation, from the deadly shooting of Hinton's son to his mental state at the time of the deadly crash. Here's a portion. When you walked into the courtroom and there were 30-plus officers lining the courtroom, and they said it was to show their respect for Officer Henderson, a lot of people would say that was an intimidation factor for Hinton, Mr. Hinton. How was it gauged by him and by you?
Anybody looking at that would say one or two things or both things. It's a show of support for the Deputy Larry Henderson. His colleagues are disheartened. They're sad by his departure or his demise, and I would expect them to support him. But also, one can look at it and say, this is a show of force. This is threatening. This is intimidating. So there's two ways of looking at it, and I think both ways are reasonable when you construe what you saw in that courtroom when there was 30 deputies. I can understand it from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department view, but I can also understand it if that was my son or that was my brother or my uncle or a relative with 30 or 40 police officers 2 or 3 feet away from him when he's in court seeking justice.
Not guilty by reason of insanity is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. And in this, with this absolutely innocent deputy who was plowed down and killed, and he is an exceptional man from everything that I hear as well.
He's a very exceptional man. I didn't know him personally, but I've seen Deputy Henderson more than once, and I've been in contact with him more than once over the years. And let's be clear, I feel for Deputy Henderson, his immediate family, his extended family, his colleagues and fellows at the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. I feel for that community and that family. And the Hintons feel bad for what transpired or what happened to Deputy Henderson. They pray for the Henderson family, and I pray for that family too. But I have to compartmentalize my feelings and do my job. But that doesn't mean that I don't have feelings and that my clients don't have feelings for what happened to Deputy Henderson, because we do.
Is there anything that you think is important that we need to address?
No.
Because you can't go into any more detail about the mental illness, which is what I would want to know about.
I can't. That would be divulging attorney-client privilege
Because the
at
thing
this
is,
stage of the legal process.
as I've said it twice, not guilty by reason of insanity makes a lot of people angry.
Right. Why?
Cop out. It's a cop out.
It's a cop out if it isn't real.
Right, and that's the thing. Proving the fact that it's real.
Right.
It's like a court case in its own.
The doctor proves that it's real. The medical records proves that it's real. His conduct proves that it's real. And I think that's forthcoming.
Tell me what it was like when you were talking to the family about watching him getting shot by police officers. What was it like in that room? What did they say? How did everyone react to it?
My focus and my concentration was on the reception of the information or the video and the perception of the video from my client, Mr. Hinton. So I really didn't ask about the other individuals and how they received it and what impact, if any, it had on them. I was concerned with Mr. Hinton. So I can't tell you what the other people...
Did he tell you anything on how he was?
No.
Nothing?
No.
He hasn't commented on it at all?
No.
I don't know how much privilege that is.
No. That's as much as I'm probably going to give you, but no, he didn't tell me about that.
Okay.
I don't think he's in the condition to tell me.
Is he in the condition that he shows any remorse or anything right now?
No. I think he's in a bad condition, in a bad state right now, and I think he has the residual effect of his mental illness. You don't get rid of mental illness. It doesn't go away. So the ruse, the fraud, the temporary insanity, I was upset, and then 5 minutes later, you realize what you did when you were wrong, or you're hanging out, doing whatever you typically would do, and you're normal. That's usually a fraud. This man is still under the influence of his mental defect and condition. So I haven't been able to get the information I need from him.
Okay. Let me just reiterate, I said this at 5 o'clock. This interview was like an hour long, and we addressed a lot of different issues. He talked about everything that I asked him. We talk about mental illness a lot and his plea. Now, I just reached out to Clyde Bennett just moments ago following the indictment. He did give me a statement about the death penalty. He says, quote, "It is very easy to obtain an indictment, particularly when you present evidence to a grand jury on the heels of an emotional, provocative, tragic incident. As a matter of law, an indictment is not indicative of guilt. In fact, the judge tells a jury that the indictment means nothing." He went on to say, in this case, the indictment does not change the facts, circumstances, and events of that unfortunate day. It does not change the fact that Mr. Hinton has a history of mental illness. Mr. Hinton experienced a psychiatric episode triggered by watching a video of his son being shot to death. And that because of his mental defect. He did not know the wrongfulness of his conduct when he engaged Deputy Henderson. Bennett says they look forward to their day in court.
That was a fascinating interview.
Nice
job.
There's more. We're going to bring you more of it throughout the evening.
It just gives us another perspective. You know
It does, and I think that a lot of people want to know his state of mind because now we know from the prosecutor that he did go to the left lane, the right lane, the middle lane. He sat there and then went straight at the deputy. And it gives us a little insight into his state of mind, perhaps, and his plea.
More of that interview coming up.
How old is this? All right, T said first. No, thank you guys so much for joining in. We are deep delving into everything. Rodney Hinton. Rodney Hinton is the man accused of killing the off-duty deputy. I'm trying to find the other. Interviews. Okay. With Trisha Mackey and Rodney Hinton's attorney. We've seen part 1 and part 2. I don't see any others. Let me go into Fox 19 in case they haven't put them out in shorts and see if I can't find them there. Thank you guys so much. Remember to please drop your teacups in the chat. Also, spill your thoughts on this case. Do you believe the plea of insanity? Do you believe it'll work? Let me know what you guys are spilling over on about this case. Okay, Fox 19. Now Cincinnati. Let's see. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm waiting on a delivery. Okay. Okay. So let's look up Trisha Mackey. Okay. I see part 1. I see part 2. That looks like that's all we're going to have on Miss Trisha Mackey interviewing the attorney. So I'm going to leave you guys there. I got to get a package off my door. I really want to thank all of you guys for exposing the Rodney Hinton case in all of its entirety. Please leave your thoughts in the chat of exactly what you think will go on with Mr. Rodney Mackey. Rodney Hinton. He's pled not guilty. We'll be back up here to expose more of this killing, murder, vigilante. You tell me what you guys are spilling over about this. What's the tea on how you think he'll fare, if he will or not. Thanks for watching. Bye. Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay vigilant.